Hobin Yu, a frail high schooler drowning in debt and humiliation, discovers a mysterious channel offering fame and fortune. With no fighting skills, he takes on brutal street brawls streamed live. But as his views soar and enemies multiply, let's see how far he can survive. The scene opens in a classroom, where Paco goes live and greets his 700,000 NewTube subscribers. Many people have joined him for the broadcast. Paco mentions that during their lunch break that day, one of his classmates and the popular beauty YouTuber, Rumi, will be joining them. As the camera focuses on Rumi, she thanks everyone for watching and greets the viewers. The audience wonders if Paco was collaborating on a video, as he had mentioned the day before. Rumi flaunts her body in a playful and provocative manner, saying that she will do her best, and asks the viewers to be kind to her. The viewers are excited to see her act this way. Paco then asks Rumi to tell everyone what kind of videos she creates. She responds that she makes makeup tutorials for teenagers. Paco asks if she's saying that she has a makeup model for her videos. She nods and explains that she worked hard to apply makeup to a boy, and the camera then pans to the boy. The viewers burst into laughter as they see the boy, who resembles a Joker with thick black makeup around his eyes and a bit of lipstick on his lips. Some even wonder if he's a ghost. Though the boy looks angry, he doesn't show it, silently thinking that if they were going to use him for their video, they at least could have given him a share of the money. The boy's name was Hobin, and Paco calls out to him, asking him to greet the viewers and give a smile. The camera then turned towards Paco, who mentioned that if the viewers hit the subscribe button, he would give away a computer to one lucky subscriber. The viewers started teasing him, urging him to stop showing his back. Hobin thought it was all nonsense, convinced that Paco was just making it up. Paco then turned the camera towards Hobin and asked him to say hi to the viewers. Hobin, feeling forced, muttered a quick hi. After that, Hobin stormed off to the restroom to wipe the makeup off his face, fuming with anger. He thought to himself that he didn't even want to go to school anymore. He reminded himself that everyone had something they were good at, except for him, like Paco, who had 700,000 subscribers, or Rumi, the new beauty YouTuber, who could rely on her looks to make a living. Hobin had neither talent nor good grades, and he certainly didn't have money. He stared at his reflection, feeling as though he had nothing, and he hated that realization. After cleaning his face, Hobin returned to class, still thinking about it all. He couldn't believe that Rumi had put that makeup on the back of his neck as well. It only made him feel more pathetic. Just then, a boy jokingly kicked him and reminded him not to look miserable on camera. He asked Hobin if he was trying to ruin the live stream. Then Snapper continued taunting Hobin, asking if he was a joke. Hobin thought to himself that Snapper was Paco's right-hand man and the cameraman. Snapper was part of a group at school that bullied others, but Hobin knew he couldn't fight back. Snapper calmly told Paco that Hobin had just been looking at him in a way that seemed to frighten him. He teasingly added that Hobin almost wet his pants out of fear. Hobin, though unable to fight back, realized that Snapper was still part of the in-crowd. Paco then asked Hobin why he did something like that, noting that he had been pushing things too far lately. Hobin thought to himself that Snapper had earned his status by agreeing to be Paco's cameraman. He was a school climber, someone who got what he wanted by riding on Paco's coattails, using Paco's power as leverage, but acting as if he were a big deal. Snapper then asked Hobin what he planned to do about it. Hobin thought that Snapper had humiliated him enough with his kicks and taunts, leaving him unable to respond. He realized this was what school life had become. Violence wasn't just physical abuse, but mental and emotional torment as well. After a while, Rumi seemed happy, thanking Paco for helping her earn more than 300,000 yen from their actions. Paco rubbed his leg and commented that Rumi was hot enough to make old men cough up money. Hobin was shocked to hear about the 300,000 yen, thinking that they hadn't even done anything yet still managed to earn that much in such a short time. Paco then asked Rumi if she had received anything in return. She nodded, confirming that it was something she could look forward to. Hobin thought to himself about becoming a YouTuber, and Snapper casually mentioned that he should become one too. Hobin was taken aback by this suggestion. Snapper continued, saying that after all this time behind the camera, it was about time he started his own channel. Hobin realized that everyone seemed to want to be a YouTuber, and for a moment, he found himself thinking the same thing. Snapper turned to Paco, asking what they needed to do to start a NewTube channel. Paco responded, asking if Snapper also wanted to make money, but pointed out that NewTube didn't pay minors. He'd need to register using his parents' NewTube account and bank details. Snapper felt a bit uneasy, as he wasn't allowed to use his parents' account because they had caught him using it for scams in the past, and his grandparents had already passed away. He glanced at Hobin and asked, with a grin, if his mother had dropped dead yet, or if she was still around. He remembered Hobin mentioning earlier that his mother was sick, and then asked Hobin if he could use her account. Hobin was taken aback by Snapper's words. Paco quickly intervened, telling Snapper that he had gone too far and needed to apologize, as his comment was harsh. Snapper asked how his comment was harsh. Paco replied, saying it was crazy to ask Hobin if his mother had dropped dead. He suggested Snapper could have simply asked if Hobin's mother was still alive. Rumi jokingly chimed in, telling Snapper to apologize, but Paco Pago seemed to genuinely wonder whether Hobin's mother was still alive. Snapper, unfazed, thanked Pago for the advice, stating that he couldn't be the only one who was considered trash in the room. He added that everyone who had laughed should apologize as well. Hobin, frustrated, thought to himself that he should punch Snapper right then and there. He felt that Snapper should at least have been placed lower in the social hierarchy, but instead, he was acting like he had the upper hand. Hobin felt sorry for his mother, realizing he couldn't do anything to help her. He felt a sense of betrayal when he remembered how, during his visit to her at the hospital, she had lied to him. She had told him she was well enough to leave but continued to lie in bed, claiming she was holding the fort at home. She had asked him to focus on getting better, and though she couldn't help with the utility bills that month, she told him not to worry about it. Hobin had reassured her that he would take care of it, and insisted that she shouldn't worry about the money. He knew, deep down, that her condition would only worsen if she left the hospital. Now he wondered if he was about to get into another fight. He gave a faint, forced smile, and muttered that what he was even talking about. He wasn't the type to be beaten by anyone, but he knew he was lying to himself, just as he had lied to his mother. After that, Hobin went to the receptionist to pay 300,000 won. The receptionist apologized, saying that he must work hard to pay the fee every time, and asked if Hobin wanted a receipt. Hobin replied that it was fine, and thought to himself how some people didn't make that much during a short live stream, especially over lunchtime. But for him, 300,000 won was the equivalent of an entire week's pay at his part-time job. He worked at a shop, where he often had too many orders to handle and would frequently mess up. He slammed his hand on the table, thinking that he earned 50,000 won after working a full shift after school, and he couldn't believe that Rumi had made 300,000 won for such a short video. It felt like society was to blame, and his life seemed like a never-ending cycle of frustration. A lady named Bomi called out to him, asking where the patties were. Hobin felt a pang of regret for all the things he had just thought, but he quickly answered, telling her that the patties were in the freezer and she should look carefully for them. She thanked him for the help. Another boy nearby overheard and said he knew where the patties were, offering to go with her. Bomi replied that it was fine, but another boy chimed in, volunteering to get them for her. On the other hand, Hobin was flustered. He had finally managed to talk to Bomi, the prettiest girl at the store. She had greeted the customers and taken their orders with a smile. Hobin thought to himself that just looking at her made him happy. Just then, Paco appeared, doing a live stream and asking how everyone was doing. He mentioned that he was currently at McDonald's. Hobin was shocked to see him there and realized that Snapper was with him as well. Hobin wondered if they had come to film a mukbang video. A few of the customers recognized Paco and were curious about what he was filming. Paco explained that he was doing a challenge. Hobin was intrigued but didn't want to be recognized, so he hid behind the counter. Paco continued, saying that the mission for the day was to find the hottie at McDonald's. He had followed the rumors and received tips from his viewers before showing up. He then moved the camera toward Bomi, complimenting her by saying she looked gorgeous, acted exaggeratedly, asking for the super-duper burger, and teasing her by saying if he didn't get a burger that looked exactly like the one in the picture, she would have to give him her number. Snapper, meanwhile, tried to position the camera so that only Pago's back was visible on screen, claiming it was the best angle. Pago then told Bomi that the Whopper needed to be grilled. He thought to himself that no one had given him any information. He had just come there to get her number because she was so pretty. He quickly apologized, saying he didn't want to do it, but his subscribers had instincts that led him to act this way. He thought there was no way they could make a Whopper in 30 seconds, as there were over 10 ingredients. He jokingly mentioned that if she gave him her number, he would wrap up the video quickly and get her a coffee. He glanced at the other staff, wondering if they were jealous, and if they were, they should start their own channel. One staff member commented that he didn't even have Bomi's number, and that NewTubers were pretty annoying. Another staff member wondered what they should do. Paco thought that he could do whatever he wanted with Bomi, and pretend it was all for content creation. Just then, Hobin came to serve the burger, proudly mentioning that he had even put a flag on the burger, just like in the photo, and added an extra patty on the house. Paco and Snapper were both surprised to see this. Hobin, sweating a lot, said there were plenty of customers behind them, and suggested they just take the burger and step aside. Without waiting for a response, he quickly left. Paco's viewers were also shocked to see that the burger had been made in just 30 seconds, and Paco thought to himself that the boy really knew how to act cool. Hobin thought he was going to get beaten at school again, and wondered why he had done such a thing. The other boys were taunting him, and it seemed like Paco had something up his sleeve. Hobin realized that even if he did something, it wasn't like she was going to acknowledge him for it. Later, as Hobin was making ramen at his house, he thought about how Snapper was probably going to throw another tantrum the next day. He regretted not punching him earlier, and couldn't believe he had let Snapper into his house. Snapper was currently playing a game where he had earned 30,000 won, and someone challenged him to get 30 kills for a 300,000 won prize. Hobin thought that Snapper wanted to string him along, and if he had his way, he would beat Snapper within an inch of his life. He also felt sorry for his mother, who didn't know that Snapper had used her details to open an account. Hobin wondered why Snapper needed to open a bank account and start a NewTube channel using his mother's information. Snapper was making money off his mother's credentials. Hobin thought about the challenge someone had given Snapper and how easily he was making money. He guessed that Snapper had a lot of connections, especially since Paco had also promoted him. However, Hobin figured that maybe Snapper would give him a cut of the money, since it was his mother's account. Snapper had killed around 21 enemies, and Hobin was bringing the ramen over, thinking that he was even cooking for Snapper, so maybe he should have asked first. Hobin had even added extra seasoning for Snapper. Just as he was approaching, Snapper accidentally pulled the wire of the PC, and as Snapper was getting closer to 30 kills, the computer shut off. Snapper turned around, only to find that Hobin, holding the ramen, was about to spill it all over his face. Hobin felt sorry for his mother, knowing that he had ruined the kimchi she had worked so hard to make. He apologized to Snapper, insisting it was a mistake, but Snapper kept complaining, saying he had lost 300,000 won, and demanding Hobin pay him back. Hobin continued to apologize, explaining that it was just an accident. Snapper then asked if Hobin couldn't pay because he was broke. Hobin wondered why he was being beaten up in his own house. Snapper cruelly remarked that it was no wonder Hobin's mother had gotten cancer. Enraged, Hobin threw the kimchi at Snapper's face and punched him fiercely, thinking that it was the first time he had let someone walk all over him. Now getting punched didn't seem like a big deal anymore. After the fight, Hobin sat silently in the dark, reflecting on what had just happened. He found it strange that he hadn't felt any pain during the fight, but now that it was over, his body ached, as if the tension had caught up with him. It felt normal though, as if it was just part of the process. Hobin then looked around at his messy room, thinking about when he would finally finish cleaning it all up. He couldn't afford to throw food away like that. Was he really worrying about money again? Why was he the only one who constantly had to think about it? Every other kid got an allowance and went to cram school to get good grades. He wished he had been born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Then, he wrapped himself in a blanket, muttering that he didn't care anymore and wasn't going to clean up. But lying there, he felt even more pathetic because he had to worry about the electricity bill. As he lay there, morning arrived, and his phone rang. He wondered who would be calling him so early. He had no idea who would be calling at such a time. He answered the phone to find it was Snapper, who angrily demanded to know if he had lost his mind and asked him to delete the video. Hobin wondered where Snapper's house was because all the houses on his street looked the same. Snapper seemed to be taking forever to answer, and then he asked again for Hobin to delete the NewTube video from last night. Hobin thought about the video and explained that the stream had cut out because he had tripped over the cable. Then, Hobin realized that the cable he had tripped over the previous night wasn't the one for the main system, but rather the cable for the monitor. Snapper was currently crying and mentioned that their fight had still been recorded by the camera. Even though the monitor was off, the stream was still live. Hobin was shocked to hear this. Snapper explained that he couldn't delete it himself because it was uploaded to Hobin's mother's account and asked Hobin for the password. Confused, Hobin asked what Snapper was talking about. He hadn't uploaded any videos and had even turned off the power strip to save electricity, so the computer should have shut down. Through his tears, Snapper wondered why Hobin had turned it off, explaining that if the computer shuts down during a live stream, the video was automatically uploaded. Hobin was stunned to hear this. He quickly checked NewTube, thinking there was no way such a failsafe existed. There was no way the video could have been uploaded just because the live stream was turned off. But when he checked, he found the video was indeed there. Their fight had been uploaded, and there were more than 10,000 comments. People had been sharing the link, and Hobin wondered why they had done so. He noticed a lot of comments in Japanese and English, and realized the video had gone viral within a day. He didn't even recognize some of the languages in the comments. He sat there, thinking about how he had gone from being an average loser to becoming a world-famous one. The first thing he needed to do was delete the video before things got any worse, though he suspected it was probably too late. Then, he saw a comment mentioning that the revenue from NewTube would be based on the views of the video. Hobin was shocked and wondered how much money he could be earning from this. He quickly calculated the potential earnings, and when he saw the number of views, he was stunned. He would earn 10 million won. The students in Hobin's class were watching the video, commenting that Hobin had used kimchi as a weapon. They wondered if he was trying to be a kimchi master, but it just made him look like a loser. One student joked that Hobin was fighting with kimchi while Sniper fought with a piece of ramen, calling it a battle between two alphas, and that they must be proud of themselves. Another student sighed, saying it was embarrassing for both their school and their country that the video was going viral worldwide. They wondered if those two would even show up to school after all this, and one of them remarked that if they were in their shoes, they would drop out. Just then, Snapper entered, opening the door and referring to Hobin as the new NewTube star. As everyone laughed at him, Hobin realized they had all seen the video. He now felt like a complete loser because of that one clip. He had put so much effort into sucking up to Paco to become part of the in-crowd, but now he couldn't couldn't allow himself to be humiliated like this. Hobin spotted a boy and decided to kick him, but the boy quickly stood up, sending Snapper stumbling back, and then started punching him. Snapper grunted in pain, realizing that the boy was heavy and stronger than him, so he couldn't move as easily. He looked over at Pago, expecting some help, but Pago just watched as the boy continued to beat him up. But Hobin noticed that Pago was smiling at Snapper, and from his experience of climbing the social ladder, he could tell that Snapper had lost everything. The boy continued to beat him. The scene shifted to the hospital, where Hobin received the hospital bill for the week, 1.2 million won. The receptionist, noticing his distress, hesitantly asked if he would be okay. She mentioned that it seemed like he hadn't even gone to school that day, probably because he was so worried about his mother. She knew that his father was absent and that the family's financial situation was dire, with Hobin being the sole breadwinner. She even felt like she might offer to pay for him. Hobin trembled as he looked at the bill, but he replied that he would take care of it. After handing over the money, he thought about how he still had 7.8 million won left. He wasn't worried about the hospital fees anymore because soon he would be receiving 10 million won. The video he had accidentally uploaded had reached 11 million views, and getting paid per view felt like a dream. As he walked out of the hospital, Hobin wondered if anyone would think he was embarrassed that so many people had seen the video. But in reality, he felt like he had nothing to lose. He was already a loser. Just then, Snapper appeared, crying and angry. He told Hobin that he had made some money from the video, but now he was the one who looked like a loser. Snapper grabbed Hobin, demanding that he give him half of the money, since he was in the video as well, and Hobin had used his likeness. Hobin thought to himself that Snapper had become a social outcast too, which was a shame. Then Hobin kicked Snapper and started beating him, demanding to know why he should give money to Snapper. It was his mother's account. Snapper retorted that he had started the stream. Hobin coldly replied that it was a shame, but it's not his problem. Snapper claimed that his reputation at school was ruined because of Hobin. Hobin thought to himself that he had already fought Snapper once and wasn't scared of him anymore. After the fight, they both sat together, and Hobin asked if Snapper was hurt at all. Snapper pretended to be, but Hobin didn't care. He still wasn't going to give him a single one, and his social climbing days were over. Then, Snapper showed Hobin the video of their last fight, asking if he was sure he wasn't going to pay him. Hobin was shocked to see it. Snapper explained that he had filmed it in secret, and that even though he was angry, he was able to produce quality footage. Enraged, Hobin grabbed Snapper by the collar, asking if he planned to upload another video. He told him to know when to stop. Snapper asked if he was an idiot, and who was going to watch that if we upload it, and people will just say they did it on purpose. Then he asked Hobin about the recording angle, suggesting they join forces rather than fight again, and he liked the money.